You must always use the electric hoof knife with the safety guard attached. Otherwise, it can potentially be dangerous for you or the animal you're trimming. The safety guard is preset at the factory, but you may need to adjust it so it can fully protect your fingers during operation. Always make sure the grinder is unplugged before adjusting the safety guard. To adjust the safety guard, first loosen the set screw slightly. You don't need to remove the screw entirely for the guard to move. Then, push the guard into the desired position, making sure it fully protects your fingers from the chainsaw disc. Finally, retighten the set screw. Just be sure not to over-tighten it. Remember, always make sure the guard cannot move freely before turning the grinder on. Always make sure the grinder is unplugged before changing the disc. First, insert the hex key into the center screw in the middle of the grinder's head. Press the locking button on the underside of the grinder and simultaneously turn the hex key counterclockwise. The locking button will click down to let you know the screw is loosening properly. Once the screw is out, remove the attachment washer and any disc already in the grinder. Put the screw and washer into the middle of the new disc and align the screw with the hole in the middle of the grinder's head. To lock the disc into place, press the locking button while simultaneously turning the hex key clockwise to tighten the screw. Remember not to over-tighten it. Make sure the disc is secure and cannot fall out before turning on the grinder. While being sure to hold the grinder away from any animals or people, turn it on to test that the disc is seated properly and will not fly off during trimming. Sharpening the chainsaw teeth is easy and works exactly like sharpening a regular chainsaw blade. Sharpening the teeth regularly will ensure you get a smooth, easy cut every time. So, we recommend you resharpen the teeth after 3 to 5 trims. If you're familiar with how to sharpen a traditional chainsaw blade, you can skip this section as the principle is the same. If you've lost the file that came with your set, you'll need to find a diamond-coated chainsaw file. Before sharpening, clean the chain thoroughly. Check for damage or overly worn teeth. The flat surface of the top of the cutting teeth should be at least 1/4 inch in length. If it's worn short, you should file each tooth so that the flat edge on top of each tooth is very nearly the same length. That way, each tooth will slice away the same amount of material. Before sharpening, press the locking button down and gently turn the disc until it stops moving. Holding down the locking button makes sharpening easier so that the disc will not spin freely. You want to push the file from the short side of the angle toward the long point. Set your file in the notch on the front of the angled tooth. The curve of the file and the curve of the tooth should be exactly the same, and the top of the file should be flush with the top of the tooth. Hold the file at the same angle that the tooth was filed to begin with. Slide the file across the face of the tooth using a moderate twisting motion to remove metal chips. Check the clearance of the rakers. They should clear each tooth by about 1/10 inch. File any raker that sits too high using a flat milled bastard file. Always make sure that the safety guard is positioned to fully protect your fingers before turning the electric hoof knife on. For the most control over the tool, it is easiest to lightly grip the grinder just below the gear head, with the tool resting on your fingertips. This will help the grinder feel balanced in your hand. Avoid blocking the air vents and try not to press the locking button while trimming, as this can cause the disc to chatter. When you first get your electric hoof knife, it's best to practice on a piece of wood before using it on a live hoof. We recommend you use a 4x4 block of cedar or redwood, as their densities most closely resemble that of a hoof. To practice, first position yourself to the block of wood like it's a hoof. Remember, never turn the tool on when the disc is in direct contact with the wood, as this can cause harm. Holding the grinder properly, slightly angle the disc perpendicular to the wood. Gently pull the grinder closer toward you as if you were trimming a hoof. Use a smooth pulling motion and don't chop at the wood. The disc is designed to flow easily across the hoof without any resistance. There's no need to force the disc while trimming. Apply light trimming while making a cut, as the disc will do the work for you. This feature helps to decrease the wrist, hand, and arm pain traditionally experienced during trimming. The electric hoof knife will cut backwards as well. The motion is the same, but the back of the grinder shaft will prevent you from laying the disc too flat. You can control the depth of any cut by using a combination of the disc angle, speed you move the disc across the surface, and pressure you apply to the disc. If you hold the disc at a 90-degree angle but apply no pressure, the disc will barely cut. If you hold the disc almost flat, the disc will barely cut. This angle provides you with a lot of control but is not practical for trimming hooves as it removes too little material. Keep practicing on the wood until you find the best angle, speed, and pressure that you're comfortable using. Always remember to keep your hands away from the spinning disc while the grinder is turned on. Don't reach underneath or attempt to remove material while the disc is rotating. After you turn the grinder off, wait until the disc has stopped spinning before putting the tool down. And don't jam the disc into wood to stop it rotating prematurely.
Always make sure you are wearing proper eye protection, gloves, and long-legged pants or chaps during operation. Never turn the tool on when the disc is in direct contact with the hoof. Before trimming with the electric hoof knife, make sure the hoof is secured and free of any dirt and debris. You should always position the chainsaw disc at a slight angle to the hoof. The flatter you hold the disc, the less aggressive the cut will be, and the lighter you trim, the more control you will have over the tool. Remember, do not chop and do not force the disc. The electric hoof knife can be used to fix ulcers and abscesses. The best way to learn how to use the electric hoof knife for fixing laminitis problems is to just practice different techniques as you encounter different problems. It will not take long before you are comfortable using the electric hoof knife to perform all kinds of hoof care tasks. Always use caution when fixing laminitis and hoof disease problems. There are two ways to apply blocks to the hoof of a cow to promote healing. You can apply the block to the claw that you have performed the corrective procedure on, or you can apply the block to the claw that does not have the laminitis problem. To apply a block in either of these situations, first you must perform the corrective procedure. Then, use extremely lightly vertical cuts and move at a 45-degree angle across the claw to create a diagonal line pattern. This will roughen up the hoof and help the glue bond to the hoof more easily. If you must apply a block to the claw that has had the corrective procedure performed on it, you can use the electric hoof knife to gently scoop out part of the block for a better fit and to promote faster healing. Holding the block up to the claw, mark the block where you need to make the cut. Then, holding the block flat in your hand, gently pull the electric hoof knife along the wood to carve out a space that matches the size of the injury. If you were required to remove a lot of hoof to treat the problem, we recommend you use an antibiotic ointment and a bandage wrap to protect the hoof from further infection. This will keep the hoof clean and allow it to heal. After 3 to 5 days, you can cut the bandage off. You can also use the electric hoof knife to remove a block and its glue from the hoof by running the disc over the wood and shaving off the block until only the clean, healed hoof remains.